All right. So today I'm here with Jeff or Charlie Brown from the Bad Horm not the Bad Hormones. I messed it up. That was the last band I interviewed from the Browns. Yeah.
Cool. Ah, okay, cool.
What's your real name?
My real name's Jeff.
Jeff. And how old are you, Jeff?
I am 44 years old.
44 years old.
Yep.
You've been at it for a while.
Yes, the Browns started in 1998.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you're wearing that mask. Could you
Well,
tell
yeah, ski masks, but when I'm hanging out at home, instead of getting all dolled up with the ski mask, I like to put on my civvies, as I call them.
Yeah, I feel you.
Where you live?
Oh, I live in North Carolina.
Tell me about North Carolina. All I know about North Carolina is, isn't there something to do with I Know What You Did Last Summer? Doesn't that movie take place there?
We got a lot of movies shot down here. I think we had a couple scenes from The Walking Dead. I think we had Last of the Mohicans, that movie about Indians and all that, shot down here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're pretty big on movies. Mooresville's Race City. We're known for like our racers and all that.
You're known for your what? Like
Racers.
races?
Yeah, like
Races?
race cars, all that.
Wow. All right.
So yeah, it's sort of our thing. Yeah. Tell me about Canada.
Canada is exciting. So the Browns started in Canada in 1998, and then I ended up moving to the United States. And from 1999 till about 2007, the Browns were there. Then I came back to Canada in 2007, and we've been back in Canadian soil ever since. Canada is cold, hence why we wear ski masks and dumb shit like that.
Yeah, so it's really just because of the weather. There's no.
What's up?
Oh, I was saying, it's really just the ski mask are really just because of the weather. There was no like, hey, let's wear a ski mask for whatever reason. It was just like,
no, we wanted to have like fake identities and stuff like that or what have you. But we didn't really know how to do it. We're like, okay, well, let's get masks. And then the most simple thing was ski masks.
Yeah, I understand. That's pretty cool though. Tell me about your life up until the Browns, like your childhood and all that.
Well, I grew up listening to punk rock and watching horror movies, and that essentially translated into what became the Browns. That was my childhood. My childhood was shaped by Sesame Street and punk rock and horror movies.
Yeah. Sounds like you were living it up.
I was living something.
Yeah. So do you have anything to add to like the band's history and like how you guys came up and all that?
Yeah, like, when we started, we were actually a much different configuration. When we started the band, I played guitar and sang. We had another guitar player, a bass player, a drummer, and a keyboard player. We recorded our first demo tape with that configuration. Then after the keyboard player left the band, I stopped playing guitar as well. And from that point forward, the band was more or less a four-piece until period around 2008, I want to say, until about 2012, 2011, where we were a five-piece. And ever since then, we've been a four-piece, and we've released three full-length albums, multiple 7-inches, multiple split 7-inches, and we recorded a live album, but we were really, really drunk when we recorded it, so it does not sound very good. So I don't know. We might see if we can pull some traction out, do something with it. But presently, we are demoing 8 new songs, so I don't know what we're gonna do with those. The band lives all in various parts of the country.
Yeah.
So when we play, write, and record, and when we're not together, we're doing various other things. So takes us a long time to get an album together because of the configuration of where everybody lives and whatnot. But I wouldn't really want to have it any other way. I wish we all lived closer together, but life does what life does.
Yeah. How often do you guys like meet up? Would you say
Ah, months.
every couple months? You said.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, was there like a demand for your style when you guys were coming up, or like was it just something that you guys decided to do on your own?
I think it was something we decided to do on our own, but we definitely knew we weren't. Sorry, I'm trying to hold my phone here. But we definitely knew we weren't doing anything original, and that was 100% the point. Like we said, let's make a band that sounds like the Ramones, the Misfits, and the Bomb Turks, and then that's what we kind of tried to do. Ever since then, I'd say back in the '90s, when you'd have 1,000 people or 500 people at a show, it was a lot more fun. Now, well, during COVID times, there's nobody, but even prior to that, unfortunately, no, the demand does not exist. Nobody cares.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it sort of died out. Was there like what inspired like you guys' band name, like the Browns? Like, how did you guys settle on that one?
We wanted super, yeah, we wanted something super generic and stupid, similar to something along the lines of the Ramones, but obviously not the Ramones. And it just kind of seemed like simple. Like we were like, okay, if we name the band the Browns, we can all have monikers that end with a famous Brown. And it would have been highly inappropriate to be, like a different color that could be used in a racial way or something like that. So
Yeah, I feel you. So do you remember the band's first ever song? Like the first time you guys ever got together and recorded? Like your song or the first one you put out, I guess.
the first song we ever wrote was also the first song we ever recorded. And we also re-recorded it for our last album because what happened was it's a song called Return to Horror High.
Yeah.
And it was on our demo tape. It's the first song we wrote, it was on our demo tape. And then we never released it properly on an album. We put it on a compilation in the early aughts. But we re-recorded it for the last album because it's always been a song that, ironically, that it's our first song we ever wrote. It's always been a song that's been super fun to play.
Yeah. Um, and then how many projects? Okay, you said you have three full-length albums out. Um,
Right.
so we obviously have, and now the screaming starts, right? And then we got the greatest hits.
Yeah, our first album was called Greatest Hits Volume 1. Our second album was called And Now the Screaming Starts. And then our third album is called The Return of the Browns.
Right. I haven't been able to find that one. Do you know like what streaming platforms it's on?
I have no idea.
Yeah. I know the other two were on YouTube, so that's where.
I would think it's on our Bandcamp page.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am not very tech savvy, as you can imagine, as it took me a while to even figure out how to get this set up with you. So that's cool, and I admit it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think our stuff's on our Bandcamp. I'm pretty sure. And if it's not, let me know, and fuck, I'll just send it to you. I don't care. Oh, can I swear? Sorry.
Oh no, yeah, you're fine. I don't care. You're good. Um, so yeah. Have you done like any solo work or anything like outside of the band?
Yeah, I have. I've done some solo stuff, but it's something that I probably haven't done in like 20 years.
Oh. Do you remember like the first song you wrote, like solo wise?
No, when I was doing that stuff, it was typically variations of songs that I had already written for other bands that I had been in. I started playing bands in 1990. So I had a plethora of bands that, wrote a plethora of songs that nobody ever heard and never went anywhere or anything like that. So some of those songs turned into solo songs that I pulled together at various times in my life and whatnot. But I haven't thought about doing something like that in, well, not 20 years, but at least 10, if not more.
Yeah.
Now, if I do anything, I'll play the Wiggles for my children or something on the guitar.
Oh, that's funny. Um,
As close to as hard as I get.
yeah, I feel you. You want to talk songs and their inspirations now?
Absolutely.
All right.
What do you got?
I don't know why I assumed this, but I sort of thought Now the Screaming Starts was your first. So I actually learned that Greatest Hits Volume 1 was your first ever album.
Well,
But
you know, it's funny you say that because and now the Screaming Starts would have been a hell of a first album title.
yeah,
But you know, the idea was that it would be Greatest Hits Volume 1, followed by Greatest Hits Volume 2, followed by ha ha ha, like aren't we funny, and keep going.
yeah,
And he just never did that. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, I've thought now would be funny to make like Greatest Hits Part 4, but like the other ones don't exist. But we'll see what happens.
yeah. Could always do a Now the Screaming Starts Part 2.
Exactly.
Yeah. So off of and now, what's up?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. So off of And Now the Screaming Starts, the very first track on there, Brain Damage. What was like the headspace or like the thought process behind that one?
Well, a lot of our songs are written with movie titles in mind, movies that I like, and they typically are a part of that movie where I would throw myself into that movie. So, for example, in the song "Brain Damage," there's a movie by Frank Henenlotter called "Brain Damage." If you're not familiar with the movie, definitely go see it. Or definitely get a copy of it. He's also responsible for Basket Case and several other fantastic films, a bunch of Basket Case sequels that are hit and miss. But Frank Henenlotter, awesome fucking movie maker, who called me once, and he got my telephone number from Bob at Fangoria magazine. I'll tell you that story later. But anyways, my headspace for that was I love that fucking movie, and I wrote myself into that movie by writing a song about that movie.
Nice.
Yes.
How about Lisa and the Devil?
Lisa and the Devil is similar. There's a movie called uh, Lisa and the Devil, or also I think House of La Exorcizo or something. It's I believe it's a Mario Bava movie. I have it over on the shelf somewhere over there. Let me see if I can find it while we're talking about it. This is where I keep all of my things, so that this is where basically my apartment and my family life. But anyways, Lisa and the Devil, it was about the movie Lisa and the Devil, and there's a lot of talk in the song about her cutting her hair, and me being really sad about the fact that she cut her hair. And the only reason why I bring that up, and here's the movie right now. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
All right, so yeah, Mario Bava. Yeah, the only reason why I brought up her hair is because halfway through the movie, I know they did a lot of reshoots and whatnot, but halfway through the movie, it kind of looks like she got a haircut.
Yeah, yeah,
And shooter when she didn't. So I really latched on to that part of the movie for some reason. I don't know why. And decided to write a whole fucking song about it.
that's funny. And this was like my first impression of you guys. I think I discovered you guys off of Reddit. What inspired Scream on Halloween?
That's a great question. It's not inspired by. It's one of the few songs that isn't inspired by a movie per se. The guitar, and it's one of the few songs that I never wrote the words for either in the band. The guitar player at the time, Fast Eddie Brown, he had wrote that one. Fast Eddie Brown has gone on to be in the Leg Hounds and Screeching Weasel and several other bands. He wrote that, and from what I understand, it was about it almost sounds like it's about Halloween, like it was about a babysitter being stalked, but it wasn't like Michael Myers, Laurie Strode specific sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
and I
Um,
always got the sense that like it was a tale being told from like the kid who's being babysat perspective, but that could be my own warped thing because I always seem to have babysitter fetishes.
dang, I feel you. Babysitters are hot, man. Like I feel you on that.
Well, I mean, they were when I was that age. Now, 44 as a dad, not at all, because I have to pay the children. But I was 8 years old, and my babysitter was like 15 years old. I was, that was like my crush, man.
Yeah, I feel you on. Yeah, I've been in similar situations. Shout out
Now,
Kate.
Now I am. I'll make it very clear. I am not interested in babysitters.
Oh yeah.
Very
Um,
clear.
yeah, I might want to clear that one up before the wife sees it.
I don't care about the wife. I
Yeah.
don't want it out there in the ether.
Yeah. Um, so what inspired Sex Kittens to go to college?
Okay, so that is a song off of a. It's funny you bring this up because I was thinking today. I was wondering if you were going to ask me about that song. It's the title is from a movie Alone. The movie itself is terrible. So what I did was I took the premise of the movie and took the title of the movie and once again kind of rewrote myself into the movie and one aspect of the movie that I really liked, which was I can't remember who was in that. It might have been Jane Mansfield or somebody else. Can't remember now. Somebody else is in it. I don't think it's Jane Mansfield. Somebody who's still alive, I believe. I don't know. I don't have a copy of the movie because it's quite frankly, it's not a very good movie, but the hell of a fucking title.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. Um, and then what inspired Angela Mania?
Angela Manias. There's a series of movies called Night of the Demons. And Angela Mania is about specifically Night of the Demons Part 2. And mostly how attractive the women are in Night of the Demons Part 2.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's pretty good. I like that one a lot. And then off of volume 1, Lady Stay Dead, the first track on there.
Yeah, Lady Stay Dead. So take it from a movie. Have you ever seen it or heard of it?
No, I don't think I have.
It's you'd remember. I don't remember who made it. It's a really sleazy late 70s, early 80s movie about a groundskeeper type guy who kills people in the neighborhood kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I don't think it's English. I feel like it might be Italian. But I also feel like I might have a weird English dub of it bootleg somewhere, but I don't own an original. I don't even know if it's a movie that's even available outside of old VHS tapes. Like I don't know if it's on a digital format or a DVD or a Blu-ray or yeah, I don't know. I had a bootleg of it, and that's what I know of it. But it's a creepy, dirty little film. I reckon. Yeah, it's sleazy.
Yeah.
Sleazy is the greatest way I can put "Lady Stay Dead," and I feel like we kind of came across that with the song.
Yeah, I
Listen
feel
to the lyrics; they're pretty ugly.
how about Reggie Mania?
Reggie Mania is about Reggie Bannister from the Phantasm series of movies. Back in the early days of the internet, I met Reggie Bannister on his like one of his websites or something like that, where him and his wife were selling music at the time. And the dude was so fucking cool. Like he was just really cool. Like, it was a guy that I looked up to, and he was super cool to talk to me, and it was just really great. And we developed a little bit of a friendship. And over the years, life's changed, and we haven't emailed or talked to each other in over 20 years. But yeah, back then it was the inspiration because I loved the Phantasm movies. I loved his character in the Phantasm movies, and then he turned out to be a hell of a guy in real life as well. So that's where the inspiration for the movie came. That song came.
That's great. And then Gulita.
Gulita is there's a movie by Ed Wood called Orgy of the Dead. And have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's basically a series of about I want to say like 6 to 8 women um, doing pseudo strip tease go-go dancing in a graveyard, and like one be like the jungle woman, and she'll come out and do like a 7-minute jungle dance and whatever. While that is taking place, there's a wraparound story of a couple who are being held hostage in the graveyard and how are being forced to watch this take place. It's really dry. It's really boring. It's not interesting at all. But in there is a character named Gulita, who I think I read somewhere that Gulita was Ed Wood's attempt at an Elvira or a Vampira, I guess, for that era.
Yeah.
kind of thing. But you know, of course, we're talking about Gulia in 2021 right now, and I'm sure we're probably the only people on the planet doing so.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I don't think Gulita ever caught on.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
it didn't catch on ground, so I'm pretty sure it didn't really catch on for Ed Wood either.
Yeah, and I noticed that this song was more successful, or like probably one of the most successful off the album, American Werewolf in Calgary.
Yeah. So the reason for the plays and whatnot that you'd come across online was in the early aughts, Activision had reached out to us and asked if they could license that song for a Tony Hawk video game. So they did, and that song is on the Tony Hawk Underground, the first one, Tony Hawk's Underground. It's just called Tony Hawk's Underground. Uh, Super fun game, and it was pretty cool. When I got my copy of it, I put it in my GameCube at the time, and the first song that started playing was Us, and I was like, "Oh fuck, that's sick." And the next time I played it, it was like Kiss, and I was like, "Oh, it's random, but still like pretty sick, right?" So because of that, it kind of became like a, I'm assuming on YouTube you saw there's lots of plays and whatnot, and
Yeah, like the first thing that stood out is like everything else has like at most like maybe 950 something plays, and then all of a sudden 12K on this one song. And I'm
right.
just like, yo, what?
Yeah, if the video game was I thought it was a fun game, and it was an honor to be involved. I mean, we were on the game with like bands like Kiss and like like pretty decent bands, right? So I mean that was fucking cool, and we got some free copies of the games and some money and stuff like that. And I think it won like an MTV award for best soundtrack or best video game soundtrack or something. I know they remastered the other Tony Hawk games recently. I hope they do the same thing with the Tony Hawk Underground one. It'd be really nice to re-dive into that now that I have kids and can show them how cool Dad used to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I never would have guessed that y'all would have had like a deal with Activision or anything like that.
Yeah, it was really comical the way they had emailed. They had emailed me and they're like, "Hey, we'd like to license one of your songs for a video game." And I had just released a solo record at the time, and I was like, "Well, that's kind of weird. Like, I can't imagine that sounding good." They're like, "No, the Browns," and I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, who are you?" And they're like, "Oh, we make these video games for a guy named Tony Hawk." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know who Tony Hawk is. Like, you don't have to,
Yeah.
you don't have to explain to me who you're talking about." And then once they started talking about legal stuff, I was like, "I'm going to direct you to the record label," because I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, use the song." And they were like, "Well, you got to sign this, you got to do that." And I was like, "Yeah, go ahead, use the song." And they're like, "No, we need to sign things." And I don't really want to sign things. I'm not very professional. When it
Yeah.
comes to music and that, the last thing I really want to do is professionalism. I have a real job. I that's what I do for a living. This is what I do for fun. So
Yeah, I got you. And then last up for like song explanations, but tour.
Tura. There's a movie called Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, written and directed by Russ Meyer, and one of my favorite movies ever. And in the movie, there is a woman, an actress by the name of Tura Satana, who didn't make a lot of movies. She was also in Astro Zombies and a couple other movies. She passed away probably about 11 years ago. But anyways, the song is about her, and mostly about her character in the movie Faster Pussycat Kill Kill Kill. Russ Meyer shaped, when we were talking earlier about music and horror movies and punk rock and stuff like that. Russ Meyer also played a huge part in the shaping of who I became as a man who not only had a lot of gratuitous sex in his movies, which is fantastic, but also every female character, it was never a victim. If anything, the men were buffoons and the women were probably the strongest characters on screen. And nobody ever really looked past that. They only saw like a guy making a movie with girls with big chests, which is like cool, whatever. But like look past that, and like you may go there for that, but then you realize like, okay, also this guy isn't a misogynistic asshole. Like, he actually does like put women first. You just don't see it that way because you can't get past the the visual aspect of it. Something like David Lynch, almost, where people say they like something like Twin Peaks or something, but then they're mad that it's not explainable to them. Well, then I don't know that you really like David Lynch, because it's kind of like a make it up your own way kind of thing, right? You don't need it to be explained to you, but that's kind of going off on a tangent. But yeah, that's what tour is about.
Yeah, I got you. And then just sort of like off of that, like you guys' cover art really stood out to me. Like when I first saw it, where do you get ideas for it, and who makes it?
Well, the my favorite artwork that we've had so far is the last album cover. I know every band's going to say that, but ours is my favorite, the Return of the Browns one. It's a EC Comics style drawing that an artist that we knew in Saskatoon or in Saskatchewan, Canada here, he said, I'll do it. And we talked about what we'd pay him and stuff, and we did. And then he did the back artwork as well, which on the reverse side of the art album is the old style comic book coupons, like X-ray glasses, 99 cents and stuff like that. But it's
Oh yeah.
weird shit like bag full of glass and just like crazy shit like that. So yeah, so Hugh did that one. Prior to that, all the artwork was done by the band, like somebody within the band or whatever. Like, and now the Screaming Star was done by the bass player at the time, James Brown.
Yeah, that's cool. And then who's the coolest musician you've played with, and what was it like to play with them?
Well, my favorite musician to play with, not necessarily coolest, but favorite musician to play with was always Shy Pig from SNFU. Without him, I would not have ever sang for a band, so he was definitely an inspiration. Coolest, oh man, I can tell you who the worst was versus coolest. We played with No Effects in the 90s, and they were total assholes. We played with Rancid, and they were nice. They were very nice. Face to Face, not so nice. AFI, we played with AFI, and they didn't like us. We played with AFI, and what we did was, they were super straight edge at the time. And we brought out this huge bag of flour, and we said it was cocaine, and we were throwing it all over the place. But then after we got all sweaty and stuff, the flour kind of got like gummy on stage. And that little AFI singer guy was like, "Where's that fucking brown?" Yeah, we played a lot of shows like that. You know, I'm not. We played one time with this guy was really cool. The singer for Good Riddance, Russ Rankin. We played with him in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and then years later we were playing in San Francisco, I think, and he came up and he was like, "Browns, Canada," and I was like, "Wow!" Like, a guy like that, I assume, sees 1,000,001 bands, and so I thought that was kind of cool. Like, I don't know that I would remember things the same way to other bands that he did. So and that was nice.
Yeah. And yeah, like what would you say is like the coolest band that you've met? Have you met any like big ones, or just like
Yeah,
like that?
I mean, like I said, like the bands that I just mentioned are probably, some of the bigger ones, I guess. The New Bomb Turks, we played with them, and they were super fucking cool guys.
Yeah.
Nashville Pussy, they were cool. Misfits, Jerry Only was very, very cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I actually didn't know about SNFU until like recently.
Oh yeah,
They came up
yeah.
in my, I think.
I have a very large SNF. Well, I have a very large record collection in general, but this section right here, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see like some of
From
them.
like my finger here. This is my SNFU collection, and they only put out like 6 albums proper, so there's several variants and everything like that. SNFU were probably up there with some of the largest influences in my life as far as music.
Yeah.
SNFU, Misfits, Descendants, Ramones.
Yeah. And what I guess that leads me into my next question. What are some of the what big names do you look up to in horror punk, and how many of those have you met? Like specifically horror punk, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, like we played with the Misfits, and like I said, Jerry was really cool.
Yeah.
He was the only one I think that I talked to. I talked to Jerry, and I talked to his brother, not Doyle, but the other brother, Ken, who was playing the Crimson Ghost at the time on their show. They were both very nice. Played with Bobby Steele, and he was fucking awesome, like the best dude ever. Like Bobby was great. I don't know. Bobby gets a lot of hate, and I don't know why. Like the Undead are a fucking cool band. I've always loved the Undead, and he's a cool dude, man. Like so. Other than that, I mean, like yeah, I wouldn't say I look up to anybody. There's lots of other bands that I like. Most of them that I've met by the Browns existing, and we've come across the same paths or whatnot.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we were on a comp. Fuck was it called now? Prom Queen Massacre. And there's an alternate version of the Scream on Halloween on there that's fast. You might like it because it's different than the slow one that you'd. Yeah. I'll send you a link to it or whatever. But on that comp, like it was like Blitz Kid and Calabrese and Cancer Slug and those kind of bands. So it's a really good comp with some great bands on there.
That's wild. Yeah. So like that's like a record you guys have with Blitz Kid and Cancer Slug?
It's a CD compilation. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Cancer Slug are on it. I know Blitz Kid's on it. I could probably find a copy of it somewhere. Oh, fuck. I have no idea where it is. But I do. Yeah, there's probably about 18 songs on it, I think. Nimvid's on it. I feel like 69 Eyes are on it. Yeah.
Nimvid from Canada too,
and
right?
we have the first song on it, which is cool. What's that?
Nimvin are Canadian too, right?
Oh.
Yeah. I remember like seeing something about that. Who were oh yeah, what other bands have you played in? Because I know you have Total Wolf right now, right? Like how's that going?
Yeah, I sing for a band called Total Wolf. We're our songs are 30 seconds to a minute and a half long, just kind of like straight up punk rock, hardcore type songs. I mean, we started off as kind of like hardcore, dad hardcore, kind of morphing into more like rock and roll hardcore. I don't know. We've been compared to bands like the Bronx. If you like that kind of stuff, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put out 2 records so far. Our first record was self-titled LP, and then right as COVID hit, our second album, Nobody Loves You, we came out, and we had the opportunity to play maybe 3 shows. Since then, what we have coming out, which might be of interest to you, is we're going to record a cover of Earth AD, but just side 1. Like we're going to do everything on side 1 and release it on a cassette. So it'll be 3 songs on each side. So like side 1 will be like Earth AD and whatnot. And then side 2 will end with Mommy, I think we're going to end it with. So it'll be 3 or 4 songs on each side. We're not touching the Wolf's Blood side at all. Maybe down the road we'll record that separately. But how we got into this was during the pandemic, like we released our second record, but kept jamming and inadvertently wrote our third record. But we hadn't really had the opportunity to play any shows to support the second record. So we're like, well, let's not forget about that second record, but let's do something in the meantime that's fun. So we said, let's record, let's pick a cover project. So yeah, we're going to do Earth AD front to back, but just side 1. And we're going to release it on a cassette only. So.
Yeah. And what were like, You guys okay, you have like two projects out. You said you have a self-titled and you have another one.
Yeah, the second album is called Nobody Loves You.
Okay, yeah, right. And you said that was the one that came out right when COVID hit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we only got the opportunity to play like 3 or 4 shows.
Yeah. Um, and like who are some of your closest friends in music coming up? Like it could be in the band, outside of the band, just like who were like I guess the most supportive that were like in it with you, I guess.
I'd say um it's hard to say, the Browns, it's always been a member that's been in the Browns. Um or somebody that I've played music with. Uh the configuration of the Browns up until about 10 years ago um changed depending on like where I lived and that kind of thing. So like when we first started the band, like we started because we were friends, right? And then made some amazing friends afterwards and whatnot um along the way, and very fortunate to meet some of the, like literally some of the best people I've ever had the opportunity to play with in my life. But now the Browns, I mentioned earlier, we all live in different parts of the country. It would be easy to say we'll just find other people to, be more active with locally. But we're not that band anymore. Now we are, I don't want to say we're a reunion band, but we're not a band that needs to live in the same area to get stuff done at the pace we get it done at.
Yeah.
Uh, like putting out 3 records in a 20-year plus time of existence is nothing that I would ever brag about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. That is a fun put down to music, and now more than ever, that's exactly who we are. We're four best friends who get the opportunity that when we get together, we get to play music together. Some people get together and they play pool or darts or hockey or whatever you guys do down there. I don't know. But instead of that, when we get together, we get to be the Browns.
Yeah. That's cool. And like it shouldn't be stressful. Y'all got like jobs and all that. Like it should just be a hobby, I feel like.
Exactly. And that's what keeps it fun too, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it keeps it interesting. Um,
because I mean, like we all know, like none of us think we're like ever going to be rock stars, nor does anybody of us want to. So then, like, why put like the stress of like,
trying to live up to that.
fuck that, man. I don't want to be a rock star. I don't care if 5 people watch us or 500 people watch us. I'm doing it because I'm having fun on stage with my friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. And I feel like that's where the best music comes from. Cause it's like if you have all that stress, you're not gonna like, you know.
Yeah, you wear it on your sleeve, and the music will suffer.
Yeah. Um, and you've already like talked a little bit about your greatest inspirations. What would you say is like your favorite of their work?
Oof. Wow. It's really hard to pick a favorite Misfits record. It's very easy to say the Coffin box set because then it just covers all grounds.
Yeah.
But I won't cheat. I'd say Walk Among Us by the Misfits is probably their best work. The Ramones, the first 3 to 4 records, flawless. But if I had to pick one, Leave Home, the second one, definitely my favorite. Descendants, you're a fool if you don't say Milo Goes to College. And yeah, who's the other band I said I loved a lot? I can't even
Was it
remember now.
SNFU?
SNFU, right? SNFU, geez, fuck, it's such a toss up between their first 2 records, but I think I'd have to go with the second record. If You Swear You'll Catch No Fish.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not really all that familiar with their work. I listened to like one album all the way through, but I need to revisit them sometime soon.
Yeah, I mean, like they're not the most accessible band. Like, finding their stuff, you mostly have to buy it on repress. I don't know if they're on the streaming services or not, but I mean,
Yeah. Um, And then to your knowledge, are there like any bands that you guys have influenced?
Um, I've seen some Browns tribute bands, so uh, you know, I, I don't know that like we influenced them per se, but I think the songs are fun and easy enough to play, and the shtick is silly enough to pull off. That if you like the band, you can be like, let's learn these songs and throw on some ski masks and play them. But yeah, I've seen a couple Browns cover bands. Oddly enough, one weekend, probably about 10 years ago, it was a Halloween weekend, and we were playing in Calgary on a Saturday. And we went up early that Friday night, and we went to a bar, and there was a Browns cover band called The Greens playing, and I sang a song with them. And then the next night, we played a show, and somebody had come up to me, and they were like, "Yeah, my band's playing an after party tonight. And we're a cover band called the Blacks." Then we went and saw those guys, and then we ended up taking after they played, we took their instruments, and then we played a set as well. So yeah, it was a bizarre thing. I mean, that's the closest thing I can think of. I think we were our influences very closely on our sleeves. So if anybody were to say they were inspired by us, they're more so talking about the people that inspired us to, they're not actually inspired by the Browns. They're inspired by the people that inspired the Browns.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'd say that. You guys' content is pretty like original. You guys like think outside of the box for your songs and all that.
Well, I mean, like that's cool, but like I definitely don't feel that way. Like I'm like I want to copy that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you guys make good music regardless, so
Well, thank you, sir.
yeah. And like what genres do you listen to outside of horror punk?
I listen to. I'm just gonna grab another beer here. I listen to a plethora of music. This is my record collection here.
Right. Yeah, you have a pretty
I have a very
expensive one.
extensive record collection. I'm very into, believe it or not, um, 80s like pop, and by 80s pop I mean um, like German like German pop music from like the 70s,
Oh, cool.
and or like 80s Canadian one hit wonders that never went anywhere. Um, there's a great band called I don't know if it's pronounced Puka or Puka Orchestra. It's Pukka Orchestra. Phenomenal Canadian band that never really had a couple hits but never really went too far. There's this German pop band that I'm talking about that I've just been in love with, called Rheingold. I'm sure you'd hate it, but it's fucking fantastic in my world. I listen to a huge like music has been a part of my music has been a part of my life since I was like literally as little as I can remember. I grew up listening to 80s music, and I never really stopped listening to music that sounded like 80s music. I just followed the same stuff as it went along, while also obviously getting deeply involved in the punk scene and the metal scene. Um, but yeah, really the only stuff I don't like, I would say, is I don't care for country music.
Yeah.
Um, I can't say I listen to a lot of modern hip hop.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I love 80s rap, some 90s rap. I don't mind like a Kanye West song here or there, but like
You're not gonna sit down and
if I were to like
listen
go
to Kanye.
and they were playing like gun to my head, I would not be able to tell you what Tech 6 9 like. Is that a person? Like
Yeah,
that's
yes. Six, yeah.
like like I know Drake because he's Canadian.
Yeah.
I think like my exposure to that music would consist of like whatever's on like the Shrek soundtrack, or like
Yeah.
like some movie. Like I don't know what any of this stuff is, and I feel totally fine with that. So
Yeah.
uh, if I want to listen to hip hop, I'm going to put on NWA or Run DMC. I'm not very interested in whatever
Yeah.
is happening.
NWA is pretty good. I listened to them back in like eighth grade.
I'll never forget. I think it was probably my eighth grade, which I'm sure you didn't even exist yet. But I was sent to the principal's office for wearing a Danzig T-shirt that had an upside down cross on the front,
Oh, really?
and and there's a kid next to me who was sent to the principal's office for wearing a "fuck the police" T-shirt, and we ended up becoming really good friends over our bond of getting kicked out of school for shitty T-shirts.
That's awesome, man.
Uh,
Yeah, it's wild. Um, what are some of your like favorite shows and movies? Like if you had to narrow it down.
favorite movie ever is the Michael J. Fox version of Teen Wolf. Absolute favorite movie. Uh, Other favorites: Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Toxic Avenger, all that stuff from all that 80s stuff is literally my bread and butter.
Yeah.
All my favorite TV shows, Twin Peaks, huge WKRP in Cincinnati fan. I was a huge Three's Company fan. Modern shows, I'd say the most modern thing I really liked was I really enjoyed Lost.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess I watched some shows on HBO and stuff like that, but I like Game of Thrones and stuff. Not for me. I
Yeah.
don't care about dragons and stuff like that. I saw there's a Chucky TV show coming out. I'm interested to see what that's about.
Yeah. I think I have been getting ads for that too, and now that you mention it.
Yeah,
Um, what are some
Twin, Twin Peaks and Three's Company are probably my all-time favorite TV shows.
yeah, I got you. Um, this question's sort of random, but like I'm like a simp for Mountain Dew. Like I obsess over Mountain Dew. So are there like any foods and drinks that you like particularly like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I If I went to the doctor tomorrow and he said I would need to cut off my arm or give up coffee, I would probably lose an arm.
Wow.
Yeah, I at least drink. You're probably not going to believe me, but I at least drink 2 to 4 espressos a day before I even leave the house, and then whatever happens from there on afterwards it's the Wild West on my friend. Oddly enough, I can't stand energy drinks and want nothing to do with them, but straight up coffee, and I like my coffee black, man. I don't fuck around.
You don't put like any cream or anything in it?
No,
Jeez.
no, man. Uh, my wife got me an espresso machine for Christmas last year, and yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. You got any like hobbies outside of music, or is it like just all work?
Music, movies, comics, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can tell. Is that like Funko Pops you got in the shelf behind you?
Oh, yeah, some Funko stuff, some old Mighty mugs, some comic books, some Thor records,
Yeah.
yes, stuff, some movies. So, yeah, lots of stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then
And then like where all have you guys toured? Like just all over Canada? You guys have like we're in the US.
all over North America. Like
Yeah.
never outside of North America, Canada and USA.
Yeah, that's cool. Where all did you touch when you were in the USA?
California, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, those kind of places.
Yeah. Did you
Far
ever
from you.
you never made it like anywhere far down south or anything like that?
Nope.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
Maybe.
Yeah. Um, and then like you have like any like crazy stories from being on tour? I know you have the flower story where like everything clotted up and all that, and the dude got pissed at you. But you have like any other like just wild?
I don't know. I mean, like, it's weird. Like when you go on tour, I don't know what other bands have said to you, but like for me, it's always felt like the first couple days you're like, this is crazy, because something crazy is happening all the time.
Yeah.
But then you get really used to it, and it don't like you're like, after you're out for a little bit, you're like, at first you're like, I can't wait to tell all my friends about this, and this. But then when you get home, you're like, yeah, nothing really happened, because so much happened that you're like, it's almost like parenting. Like you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't really know what you're expecting, and then like it all just kind of like, it's all just crazy, right? So you just kind of get
Yeah.
used to it. I can't really say that there's anything. I mean, like, you know, oddly enough, I mean, we may be like crazy party guys on stage, but not really that way when it comes to hotel rooms and that kind of thing. I mean, we, typically just get some food and some drinks and hang out.
Yeah.
I've always been the guy that goes back to the room and goes to bed.
Yeah. Don't stay out partying or anything like that.
No, man.
Yeah. What have been your thoughts on COVID-19 so far?
I it's depressing.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
seeing all these people pass away, and a lot of hatred, a lot of mixed opinions, and a lot of people not liking other people for their beliefs in one way or the other, and it's brought nothing but sadness.
Yeah, it's a pain.
Yeah, man.
What about lockdown?
Um, it didn't affect me in directly outside of my family having to stay home, but my job was considered an essential service, so I still work during lockdown periods and stuff. But
Yeah, what do you do for a living again? I forget if I've asked.
don't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
I sell magic tricks.
Nice.
I'll tell you when we're not recording.
Okay, yeah, I feel you. Um, and then shoot, I don't know if you guys are having any of this up in Canada, but have you guys had like any riots and like racial tension and all that, like with over the
We more so with like Aboriginal people. I don't know if you've heard a lot about the residential schools and the bodies that have been frequently uncovered over here. Uh, More so that, not the same type of, not as much police hatred up here as you guys have down there. Um, uh, you know, there's always been a distinct line between Canada and the USA as far as like, I'm not going to be naive and say racism doesn't exist, but it's always kind of been like front and center in the USA that it does there. And I don't know if Canada is just better at hiding it in our past and our history, but yeah, it's different is all I can say. Like, I've lived in both countries, and it's just different here. I lived in the USA when 9/11 happened, and the level of hatred that I felt around me, not myself personally, but around me, from people who hated people of different nationalities and religions was crazy. Like, I can't imagine that ever happened in Canada. It just happened, buried in our history, that nobody likes to talk about or teach you in school.
yeah. Um, and then did you hear about the storming of the Capitol down here?
Yeah, I actually watched it on my phone live on January 6th.
Yeah. What'd
Yeah,
you think about that? Pretty wild.
yeah, you guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like,
have
I don't.
like that scared the crap out of me, and like I wasn't even there. It was just like it's just something you never really expect to see, you know?
Yeah, I was. I was doing something very bizarre that day that had me sitting in a car for about 4 hours. So I was literally watching it on Facebook Live on my phone, going like, "What the fuck?" And
Yeah.
yeah, I not overly surprised based, on your former administration and how things were being run there. But man, oh man, like, yeah, you guys are crazy. you guys
Yeah.
are. I don't know, man. Like there's
We,
a
we've been
I'm
wild
scared
out.
scared to permeate out of the USA after the past 4 years.
Yeah. Um, what have been your thoughts on, I guess, the Biden administration so far? I guess that doesn't really affect you, but like I guess just from what
No,
you've seen.
no. Uh, you know, we got so bombarded with like Trump everything since it's like when Trump took office that like since Biden took office, they don't even talk about like American politics anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a nice break.
Yeah. How's politics up there in Canada?
Just as goofy as every other country.
Yeah.
The good the good guys are never as good as you think, and the bad guys are typically worse. And somewhere in the line, there's you like parts of each what each platform has to say, but ultimately, they're all lying to you in the end, anyways. And if you want to lie to yourself and believe in it, then cool.
Yeah. Um, up in Canada, do you have like any like creatures like Bigfoot or like anything? And have you had any encounters and stuff like that? It sort of goes with like my Halloween questions.
Uh, uh, well, Sasquatch is Canada's Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Uh, there's also the Ogopogo, which is Canada's Loch Ness monster,
Yeah.
and I think that's it. Have I had encounters with either of them? No. I have been in the water where the Ogopogo resides on kind of like a booze cruise kind of thing. It was very much like that episode of The Office where they're on the booze cruise.
Yeah.
Uh, I did not see the Ogopogo that night.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And then I guess like, do you have a message to your fans?
Uh, let me think. No. Um, it's fun that dudes like yourself. I get to meet quote unquote people like yourself that are discovering the band now. When it's stuff that some of it was made long ago, right?
Yeah.
Like what year were you born?
2003.
2003. So like I think, and now the Screaming Starts probably came out around 2002 or 2003.
Yeah.
So we had already had like two albums out by the time you were born. So to have this conversation in 2021 from the comfort of my own home and the comfort of your own home, it's pretty sweet. So I'm a pretty easily accessible guy. So if you want to talk, then cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy that I'm like getting on this whole train now that everything feels over for the most part. Like,
No, it's not. And like, when I first started going to shows and I joined what we called back then the scene, it was 1989. And I felt super intimidated and all that kind of shit. And the older people that were there in the area already were like, hey man, it was always someone's first time here. It's always someone's first time hearing this or whatever. Like, every day, like I discover new music, not every day, but I frequently discover new music that, I never would had I not just thought about something new and just looked outside the box and whatnot. And that's kind of like what it's going like into the scene, like everyone's first show is their first show.
yeah,
Everyone's first record is their first record. So, I think it's never too late to start, and you can also never try too hard.
yeah. I think that's a cool way of looking at it.
Yeah, man.
You got a message. Have you guys ever been big enough to experience any haters or anything like that?
Outside of other bands, no.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like other bands that like I said, like the AFI thing or that kind of thing. Trying to think. We have a fake beef with Masked Intruder. We had a fake beef with Avril Lavigne as well.
No.
It's really like well, Avril Lavigne one time she was interviewed on Canada's MTV, and she said that one of her favorite bands was the Browns.
Really?
And she also said a couple other bands, and we all kind of made fun of each other for it. But because there's no way that she, like I don't believe that. I feel like somebody must have told her you should say you like this band, you'll get some street credit or something like that, because it doesn't make sense. She doesn't play music that sounds like us. Well, I guess I don't play German pop music either, but I don't believe that she's quote unquote that ears to the ground to know of the Little Browns.
Yeah. So like I guess to any other bands, like has all of it been fake? Or I guess just like, do you have a message to like, if you have any haters that you don't know about, what would your message be to them or your response be?
That's a good question. If someone was like, "I hate your band," I'd be like, "That's awesome." I'd be like, "You're intense. You're passionate. It's good for you." I
Yeah,
don't care. I'll be frank. I mean, I genuinely don't care. I said earlier, like
you
I'm the
do.
kind of guy.
Yeah,
I'm the kind of player for 5 people or 5,000 people. I really don't care.
yeah,
Do if somebody was like, "Fuck you guys suck," I'd be like, "Yeah, great. Like, sure, we do. Awesome. Like everything sucks. Whatever." I don't take anything personally, and I really don't give a fuck.
yeah. Um, and then you got any advice for anybody coming up in horror punk if there are any now?
Have fun.
Have fun.
And like, look, like the Misfits are amazing. We all love the Misfits and we all love Glenn Danzig. But there's a lot of other great bands out there that are playing a lot of great music. Like follow a band like Calabrese, for example. Like they're phenomenal. They just get better like with every record, you know?
Yeah. I've heard a lot about Calabrese too. I've never really, I mean, I've played a couple of their songs, but I need to check them out some more.
Yeah. Calabrese a great horror section. I think I mentioned them to you.
Oh yeah, you did. I've
Yeah,
actually,
there's a lot of, like with anything, if you want to do it, and you realize and if you want to do it and you can accept that you're not going to make money off of it, and if anything you're going to lose money and you're going to lose time and you're going to lose friends, but you're going to have fun doing it, then do it. If you
yeah.
can't accept any of those things, then you're not doing the right thing. Go try to be a Motley Crue cover band or something.
Yeah. I actually did check out like I think two whole horror section albums because I was in
Great.
quarantine. I really didn't have anything to do. They're pretty good.
Mhm.
Um, I think my favorite song is like Forever Gone or whatever it was called.
Yeah, they're great. They just put out a new EP.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I checked that out too. Um, could you see the scene changing in the future or like how so if you could?
I don't know that we'll ever go back to shows where you were shoulder to shoulder with people like in a mosh pit kind of thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if I ever go back to that.
it's kind of hard to see it that way now.
Yeah.
Um, what's uh what's going on with the family? Like what how did you meet your wife and all that?
Well, we met online and then we ended up being neighbors. So
Oh, really?
yeah, picked her up for like our second or third date and she lived like across the street from me. And I was like, oh shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's fatherhood been like? Has that like affected your career any?
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything that I used to do it now revolves around Care Bears and My Little Pony.
That's crazy.
Oh,
Um,
good.
yeah.
Wouldn't change.
I always thought it was wild, like hearing you and your music and then just randomly getting a text from you like, oh yeah, like we can do this thing, but like I gotta take my daughter to ballet and all that. It's just like so different from
Oh, I'm super dad. I'm very hands on.
yeah,
Yeah, everything I do for the family. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm straight, buddy.
should be. Yeah. You got anything to add?
No, man, it's been great talking to you. What time is it over there?
Shoot. Yeah, it's like 11:08 now.
Jeez, buddy. Well, thanks for staying up late to talk with me.
Yeah, man, of course. I appreciate you
Yeah,
taking time.
yeah, of course. Sorry it took so long for us to get this lined up, but it's been a weird fucking year.
Yeah, man, it's just been weird overall. Like, nothing we can do about it. We got responsibilities.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for being cool, man.
Yeah, take care.
All right, man. Text me later.
Have a good night. I for sure
All right.
will.
See you, bud.
See you.